A microchip helped me find my cat 5 years after she went missing. Yep, 5 years. In this episode, I'm going to share the story and what I learned about the misconceptions that so many pet parents have about how microchips work. So stick around because I'm not only going to share those myths and tell you the story, but I'm going to tell you where you can look up your pet's microchip number to see if it's actually registered. And if you don't even know your pet's chip number, I'll tell you how you can find it. So stay tuned. You've reached the Pet Parent Hotline, your lifeline to practical solutions for your toughest pet parenting challenges. I'm your host, Amy Castro, and I'm here to help you cut through the noise and turn expert advice into step-by-step strategies so you can stop chasing your tail and start enjoying life with pets again. So when I got the text from my neighbor last month, it wasn't something unusual. Very often we live in the country, animals show up, and we'll all text each other and say, is this your cat? Is this your dog? Is this your cow, pony, whatever it might be? So when I walked over to my neighbor's house, I wasn't expecting to see anything familiar, but the reason I even went over there in the first place is because as a rescue, we have a microchip scanner, and I figured, well, if nothing else, I can at least scan this animal, see if it has an owner, and try to get it back where it belongs, because it's not my cat, it's not his cat, whatever the case may be. And when I got over there, there was something about this cat that looked super familiar. And you'd think that you could recognize your own pet, right? But when Pootie disappeared 5 years ago, she was one of our fattest barn cats. She had a big round head, she had a lot of sass and attitude, and this poor creature that I saw was skin and bones, had cloudy eyes, and in fact, he told me, I think she's completely blind. So I scooped her up, I put her in a carrier to bring her home because I didn't want to risk this cat getting away, whoever it was. And as soon as I got her back to the rescue ranch, I scanned her, and when it beeped, my heart stopped because I thought, oh gosh, this is like one step closer. And so I called the microchip company. Long story short, and I'll tell you later how all this works, it came back that it was her. She'd been missing for 5 years. She showed up at my neighbor's, which is probably a mile away, emaciated and completely blind. I mean, it is an amazing story, even if it just ended there. And the only reason that I knew it was her was because of the microchip. So I thought it was a great story, right? And that's why I'm sharing it with you as well. But the first thing I did, of course, is share it on social media. And when I posted the story online about her coming back, people flooded the comments, not just to celebrate and say how awesome it was, but with a lot of questions that, quite frankly, shocked me. Things like, well, why didn't you track her? Why couldn't you track her down when when she disappeared? Why didn't the microchip show you where she was? Why didn't someone who found her just call you? And it made me realize that most people have an incredible misunderstanding about how microchips work. Microchips don't track your pet. They are not GPS. They don't ping satellites or ping your phone, and they don't tell you where your pet is right now. They're kind of like an ID tag, but it's under the skin. So unlike an ID tag that you might have on your pet's collar, that anybody that found your pet could theoretically call you and return your pet to you, it only speaks when somebody has the right kind of scanner to listen. So let's talk about how microchips really work. First of all, your pet's microchip is a tiny, tiny device. It's about the size of a grain of rice, and it's usually injected under your pet's skin between the shoulder blades. Now, if your pet is older, sometimes the microchip will migrate, but for most pets, that's where you're going to find it. There's no battery, no signal. It just kind of sits there waiting until it's needed. When a vet or a rescue or a shelter scans your pet, the scanner will pop up with an ID number. So that's kind of the first bit of the process that people don't realize, is that it doesn't transmit your information. It just pops up with a number. The person that's scanning will then call the microchip company that owns that chip, because there's a number in the code that tells you what chip company owns that chip, or you can look it up. So it could be Home Again, it could be 24 Pet Watch, it could be our friends over at PetLink. And then that rescue shelter or vet can call the company, identify themselves as being a rescue shelter or vet, and get the registration information. And if your information has been registered with your pet's chip number, then the microchip company or the shelter will call you. If it's not, now you've hit a dead end. And somebody working in rescue and having volunteered at a shelter, I've hit a lot of dead ends. You get so excited as a helper when you scan that animal and a chip comes up, only to find out that the chip's not registered or that the registration information is out of date. So this is where a lot of people drop the ball, is registering the chip. When you adopt from a rescue or a shelter, they're often going to say, hey, look, your pet's already chipped, and that's great if the registration is done. So remember, that information is entered by human beings. So make sure when you adopt a pet or get a pet from a shelter, that they have done the registration process for you. If not, then they will provide you, or they should provide you, with information about how you can register that chip yourself. The other thing to keep into consideration is, even if they do it for you, don't trust it. Not that I'm saying that people do anything wrong, but all it takes is one typo or a wrong telephone number or a wrong address, and you're never going to see your pet again. So before you leave that shelter, ask that agency to scan that chip right in front of you so that you can confirm the number, so that you can write it down. If for whatever reason you haven't already done that, the next time you go to your vet, ask them to scan your pet and make sure you write that microchip number down and verify that that number is matching the number that you were given when you adopted the pet. Then you're going to want to go online and check that the chip is properly registered under your name and your phone number, and make sure it's not sitting in the rescue's name, because you'll be shocked at how many times that happens. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think that's a really good thing. As a matter of fact, here with us at Starlight Outreach and Rescue, we definitely register all microchips to us first, and then you can add your information too. But many times the information will come back to us, if nothing else, and that's always good. So the chip isn't magic. You are, as the owner. You've got to make sure that you register the chip and that you keep your contact information current and up to date. If you move, if you change numbers, make sure that the first thing you do when you have that new telephone number or you have that new address is to update your chip information. There is no fee to do that, okay? You can just do that and update the information. And if you have the opportunity to do so, add a backup contact. Preferably somebody that you don't think is going to move anytime soon. So a lot of times people will register a parent's address. If your parents have lived in the same house forever and they're going to stay there, no plans of moving anytime soon, maybe that's your backup person. But stability is key in keeping that information current. So bottom line is, think about the microchip as being locked up with your information inside. It works beautifully, and it's all there, but it's only going to work if A, somebody can find it, and B, if the information that you've got in there is up to date. So I promised earlier in this short episode that I would give you a link, and here it is. It is petmicrochiplookup.org. And that link, again, is petmicrochiplookup.org. And we'll have it in the show notes as well. And that site is run by the American Animal Hospital Association. And it is exactly like it says. It's a lookup system. So you type in your pet's chip number, and the first thing it'll tell you is what microchip company the chip is registered with. So now your question is, well, gosh, what is my pet's microchip number? Hopefully somebody gave that to you when you adopted your pet from a shelter or a rescue. But if you didn't get that information, or you've lost that paperwork or can't find it, whatever the case may be, any veterinarian, any animal shelter can scan your pet and give you that microchip number. So don't wait. Don't wait if it's going to be another 9 months for your pet to go to the vet. Just drop in and say, hey, can you scan my pet's microchip so that I can write it down and record it? They're not going to charge you for that visit. And generally, it's going to be somebody right at the front desk that's going to be able to do that for you. So Now you've got the number, and then you're going to look it up in the American Animal Hospital Association site, find out the name of the company where the chip is registered or manufactured if it's not registered, and then call that company and make sure that your registration information is up to date. So in many instances, it will be simply confirming the information that they have on record. And if not, if it's not been registered, then you should be able to register the chip at that time. If you have any problems in that process for whatever reason, you're going to want to go back to the organization where you got your pet and see if they can help you with that process. But the bottom line is you should be able to get all that information taken care of on your own. Now, one thing that people will oftentimes ask when I get to this part of this explanation is, well, does that mean that anybody can go in and look up my information and get that? No, that's not the case, because even if I had your pet's chip number and I'm just a random person on the street that happened to find your cat, take it to a vet, get it scanned, get the number, and call the microchip company. If I am not from a rescue or a shelter or a vet, they're not just going to give out your contact information. The other thing, if you want to safeguard that information even further, is you can tell the microchip company that the information is not to be released. And so that way, even as a rescue, and I've had this happen many times when I have called on a microchip, is that the owner of the pet has asked that the information not be released to the finder, but the microchip company will then contact the owner. But again, it's only going to work as good as the information that's in their database. So they're going to call the telephone number that is on the microchip that was registered. They're going to send an email to the email address that is provided with the registration information. And that's the extent of what they can do at that point. So that's why, again, it is so important to keep that information current. So you're probably wondering what happened with Pootie. And the bottom line is she obviously made it home. The reason that she was emaciated and blind, it turns out that she had cancer. And so we did have to humanely euthanize her, which is the sad ending to the story. But for me personally, the happy ending to the story is she made it home. She was back with her family, and she was humanely euthanized versus I don't know how long she would have survived blind out in the wild trying to fend for herself. So you might be wondering, well, what happened to her all this time? I have no idea. I can only speculate because she was a barn cat and because she was pretty feral. Like, she was not a cat that you could pick up and certainly not cuddle. She barely would let you touch her. That she probably moseyed up to somebody's barn and hung out with their barn cats and ate their food and kind of stayed there until she started losing her sight because of her illness and maybe wandered off and got lost and kind of ended up back in this right direction. But, you know, the happy part of the story for me is that the wondering that we had been living with for 5 years was ended. And the fact that when she made it home, she was back with us. She actually let us pick her up and hold her, and she's buried right here at the rescue ranch. So the message today, and the reason I wanted to do this episode, is that this is my call to action for you to be proactive and take steps to verify that everything related to your pet's microchip is accurate. So let's talk about doing a 5-minute microchip checkup. Number 1, make sure your pet actually has a chip. Just because you were told they were microchipped doesn't mean that that actual process happened. So that would be the first step is, again, go to any vet, any shelter, and let them scan your pet for the chip. Number 2, make sure you have the microchip number and that you write it down accurately. Read it twice. Read it back to the person. It's gotta be accurate and every number in order. Number 3 is to check the registration with the microchip company. So get on that American Animal Hospital Association microchip lookup site. Again, that address is petmicrochiplookup.org, and make sure you know the company that has your chip registered, and make sure that it is properly registered with all of your current information, and if they allow it, a good backup contact person for you. And the few minutes that it would take to do all of that could make the difference between a happy reunion between you and your pet or a lifetime of heartbreak and wondering what happened to them. So hopefully this motivated you to take action on this. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it today. And despite how things ended with Pootie, that little chip really gave me the one thing that I never expected for her, and that was closure. And we were able to bring her home and show her love for a few weeks before she passed. And if her number had been wrong, or if I had never registered the microchip, she would still be out there. Microchips work, but only if we do the work behind them. So please help me spread the truth about microchips. Share this episode with other pet parents who still think that microchips are like a magical GPS that's gonna teleport their pet back to them if they disappear. And if you've got your own microchip reunion story, comment and let us know about it, or join us in our Pet Parent Hotline Insiders group on Facebook and share it with us, because I think the more that we share these stories and how they came about, the more people we will convince of the importance of microchips and having them registered correctly, and the more pets that will find their way home. Thanks for listening to the Pet Parent Hotline. If you enjoyed the show, don't keep it to yourself. Text a friend right now with a link and tell them I've got a show that you need to hear, and ask them to let you know what they think. And remember, your pet's best life starts with you living yours. So be sure to take good care of yourself this week and your pets.